When I let go of who I am, I become what I might be. When I left my job and I said recovering attorney, I told myself I was going to take a year to really dig into who I am and what I want to do.
This is episode 9, a duo episode with myself and Corinne Smith. And today we're going to be talking about living in and leaving corporate America. Welcome back. It's Catherine, and a huge warm welcome to the Living on Purpose podcast, a place where we discuss the importance of purpose in our lives and connect with others that have created soul-aligned offerings that build into their personal purpose. Before we get started, please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review the Living on Purpose podcast. When you send me your screenshot of the review to Catherine@klzmethod.com, we will send you our KLZ Method workout for the chakras. Also, as you're listening, screenshot your favorite part and share it with us on Instagram at klz.method. I love hearing from you and sharing your thoughts and comments. I'm also so grateful to you and all of our amazing listeners for helping us to grow the podcast and share its guests and message with more people. Now let's get into the show. Corinne is a recovering attorney teetering between the metaverse and metaphysical. She was a partner with a law firm practicing data privacy and healthcare regulatory law. 6 months ago, she stepped away for her own version of Eat, Pray, Love without a divorce or trip to India. But she's not ruling out a trip to India either. I love that. I love your bio. It's so fun. Can you share with us a little bit about this? I mean, we'll just dive right in. This is just such a fascinating story.
It's been kind of a wild journey. I started with Kundalini yoga about 6 years ago when my mom was really sick with dementia and a lot of health issues. And I didn't even know what I was getting into, but I knew I needed some help to deal with my stress, uh, the stress level. My father had just died from Alzheimer's, and my mom had dementia, and I was single parent with a son that was I think he was like a sophomore in high school at the time. And I just had so much going on. At the same time, I'm trying to be a partner in a law firm and deal with my clients. So I stumbled my way into Kundalini yoga and meditation and a lot of other practices that sort of helped me get myself grounded. And all of a sudden, I felt like my life in yoga and my life at work didn't align. There were so many things that were happening at work that would really stress me out, and I just turned into a different person between them, and it was just a real dissonance. It just didn't feel connected.
Mm.
And this continued for a while, and I started talking about quitting my job and doing something different, but I couldn't really decide what I wanted to do. And being a lawyer, being a partner in a law firm is really all consuming. And I felt that I had really compartmentalized myself in order to get things done and deal with stressors and still do a good job for my clients. But it wasn't a real alignment of what I wanted to be doing. And I was so busy with work that I couldn't even look for a different job or find something different or think about what I wanted to do. So I asked my firm if I could take a leave of absence. And they looked at me like I'd grown two heads.
Yeah.
They said, "We don't have a policy for a leave of absence. You could take FMLA." I said, "Well, I'm not having a mental breakdown. I just need time. I need time to think. I need time to process. I wanted to travel. Um, I just hadn't done anything for myself in a really long time." And
Right.
so they said no. And I kind of thought about that for a couple of days, and I said, "I think I'm just going to quit." So I went back and I said, "I really want a leave of absence. You don't have a policy for that." And I think about it, 3 months probably wouldn't be enough. I mean, stepping away as a lawyer for 3 months is really hard to do. Someone has to take care of your clients. You can't just walk away from your business. Um, it's not fair to the client to do that. And if you hand them off to somebody else, they may not be your client when you come back. So it really made a lot more sense to just leave. And so, that part about my own version of Eat, Pray, Love without a divorce and a trip to India, I put that in my parting email to all of the partners, and they'd never seen anything like that before. I got so many interesting responses. It's just not anything that people do, right? People don't in law don't step away like that. Um, Especially with the name partner of our firm, he's 82 years old. He still comes to work every single day. I don't even think he's taking a vacation.
Wow. I mean, it really is. And I know that when we met, so Corinne and I met last summer at a retreat, and we just really connected. And I just was fascinated with this story. And I know that just this intro, just this beginning segment, I know that so many of the listeners are already feeling this because it's something that we experience on our own. It's like you're in this role, you're in this employment, and if you step away, they think you're crazy. They think, so, like you said, we don't have a policy for that. You have to claim you're having a mental breakdown, but it's not a mental breakdown. It's actually the exact opposite. I'm taking time for myself that is healthy. And like you said too, you couldn't even look for another job because you didn't have the time. And you also have a son who's, he's not a small child. He's this was like when he was in his teenage years. He's in his 20s and stuff like that, right? So doing all the things that you
Right.
have to do to just live in life in the commutes and the job, and then cooking food and folding laundry and all these things. And even if you're not folding laundry, if you have somebody else doing some of these things to clean your house and whatnot, it's just wild what life becomes when you are just. I was listening to this thing the other day, and they were talking about the algorithms and how the algorithms are so helpful and useful, but we need to make sure that we're using the algorithm. And I've heard a lot of people say, and not be used by the algorithm was one thing, but also not become an algorithm.
Yes.
When you wake up every day and you go to the same Starbucks and you do this and you do that, you get home at this time and you see the same people everywhere you go, like you're kind of becoming an algorithm yourself, where you're predictable, where you're programmed into this sequence of events. And breaking out of that algorithm, even if it's going into work late or even if it's shifting up your routine a little bit, just to keep your brain firing in a way that is not just so repetitive. I love it. I mean, I just know that this is going to resonate so much already, just what you shared.
Well, and I think you can do like you can switch jobs, you could take another job, you can do small adjustments, I think, small
Mhm.
changes, but to do something really massive, a massive shift like I wanted to do, I feel like that takes time. It takes time for a mental process to happen. And I've made some big changes before in my life. I started out in interior design and
Mhm.
sales.
Wow. I
And
didn't know
then
that.
yeah, my first job, I worked for Herman Miller, the big furniture company in LA. I had an office in the design center in Los Angeles. And then I went from there to get a master's in healthcare administration. And I worked in hospital administration doing strategic planning, business development. And, uh, and then I went to law school. I went to law school when my son was 2. So I like I say I kind of done things the hard way, lots of changes, but I really felt like this was time for a big shift. And I heard a quote the other day that just really resonated with me. I have it on my phone. I'll just read it to you. As from Lao Chao, the Taoist philosopher. He says, "When I let go of who I am, I become what I might be." And when I left my job and I said recovering attorney, I told myself I was going to take a year to really dig into who I am and what I want to do. And feel like I need that time to sort of unpack all the things that have happened to me over the
Mhm.
past whatever years, 50 years, a lifetime of things that have happened that I've ignored the spiritual side of myself, and I've shut so many things down to be a lawyer and be a woman partner and be successful, and it was kind of bitchy and a lot of the things that I did because that's what I felt like I had to be
Right.
successful. And I started with that Miracle Way retreat thinking I was going to launch right into coaching and doing retreats and leading people. And the more I started to unpack, the more I said, I need more time. And so I've really been intentional about saying no to things that people ask me to do, or opportunities that come up, saying it's not time. I'm going to take this full year before I make any decisions. And so people want to put a label on it, right? They're like, "Oh, have you retired?" I'm like,
Mhm.
"No, I don't think I'm retiring."
Mhm.
"Are you on a sabbatical?" "Well, maybe," because
Mhm.
that is a term people in business understand.
I love it.
But the idea of just not doing anything is so foreign
Yeah.
to the way that we've been programmed, and when you work all the time and you're running between things and events and people and responsibilities, it's just such a luxury to, like, read a book or
Right.
journal or go to yoga class, and it still feels like a luxury to me, like, I feel like I'm on an extended vacation.
Mhm.
And it feels strange. It
Mhm.
feels really strange. But the labeling part is really funny. I went to an event, last week. I'm on this advisory board for this healthcare think tank, and I didn't register. Someone else registered for me because I never check my emails anymore. I forget. And they said, "Are you coming?" And I
Wow.
said, "Yes." They said, "We'll register you." Okay. So because I didn't have a company name, they didn't know how to register me in the form online. And so they put formerly with Winstead, which was the name of my firm. So here I am at this event with this name tag that says formerly with Winstead. I was
I
like,
love it.
that is so weird.
I
Do
love
I
that.
not have do I not have an identity if you take away
Right.
my law firm?
Right.
I mean,
Totally, it's
can I
so
just
true.
not have my name?
I
But
know it.
people want they wanna put a
Yeah.
label on
Well,
everything that you're doing.
and a lot of the times these forms that we fill out, they are not able to you can't move to the next part of the registration process unless you've hit all the boxes that have that red asterisk, right? So it's like
Yeah,
she doesn't have a thing, we can't move forward. We don't know how to compute this person does not fit into our
I don't fit in the
data.
box.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
but it's so amazing because it's challenging. You know, you're really challenging people and paving a new way for yourself and paving a new way for the way that life is lived. I feel this way. Frank and I are not married. And so it's really funny for my family. You know, my mom and dad are really Christian. My mom's super Catholic and my dad's very much Lutheran, and they live their lives that way. And so they have, you know, my dad goes to spend time with different people in fellowship and stuff like that. And he'll talk about Frank and he'll talk about me and our family and things like that. And he says, you know, what do I call you guys? Like, I don't really know how to say what you guys are. Say whatever you want. But he doesn't he literally he doesn't want to lie. You know what I mean? But he doesn't know what to say. I'm like, you can say partner, you can say whatever you want to say, but we just well, but then we want to get into like, well, why aren't you guys married, and what is the deal with that? And we're just fine being how we are, so we just choose to not subscribe to that. It's the same kind of thing. People don't know what to do with it.
Oh my
They need you to
gosh.
tell them.
That is
They
so
need you to tell them what you
it's
are.
so
I mean, I
true.
love that the option that they actually came up to was former employee of, you know, the specific company because it's so ego, it's so root chakra related. You know what I mean? Like we need to have an ego and it's cool too because this serves us in a lot of ways. It served us in the ancient times when you know there were tribes and you needed to know who your people were because if there was another tribe that might be someone that wanted to kill you or you know you needed to whatever you know it goes back way into that
Yeah.
space where it was a big deal but obviously that's not really a threat anymore. We don't need to know people for that and we're able to really dissolve some of these egos, but it's a practice. Has that come up for you personally as you're going through, like you said, it kind of comes in waves? Has ego come up for you where it's uncomfortable and like just what is I mean because I'm asking this question because I've gone through this a little bit myself and just breaking out of our life and leaving Chicago and coming to Tennessee and sort of living this hybrid life and building my own business on the side and just not even that anybody necessarily knows some of the things, but sometimes I have a hard time with it when I go into corporate finance, you know, where my full-time job is. I go to travel and things like that and we do have the name tags and we're wearing our corporal outfits and I feel sometimes weird because I've unsubscribed from so much of it in my soul, but I still go into it and I feel like, man, maybe I should maybe I should be trying a little bit harder or, you know, it's just like I feel pulled and compelled to go back into it because of my ego wanting to feel secure, you know, and driving the nice car and like all the things that goes along with it. Like, have you had that come up in any kind of way?
Oh my gosh. Every day. Every day. But I think that is a big part of why I'm having a hard time really with committing to this
Mhm.
year of doing nothing, because I have been such an achiever in all of my
Yeah.
lifetime. And, I stepped away from my job. I think I told you I called it the golden handcuffs because
Yes.
they paid me really well. And the thing of walking away was, okay, I may never make this kind of money again. I may never have a prestigious job, like, a shareholder in a law firm. You get invited to nice things, you have nice things, people wait on you at the firm, and you're treated really
Yeah,
well.
right.
And so, yeah, there is a lot of ego of, okay, so and I've made this accomplishment, I've made this career, so now I'm gonna just step away. I'm just giving this all up. That to me, that is all the ego, right? Like, to think that there's a scarcity and that, "Oh, this now I'm done, I can never come back from it." And that was, what other people were saying to me too, like, "Don't quit your job. That would be a huge mistake." And I'm like, "Really? Why?" Like, because I have, reinvented myself so many times before. I felt comfortable with it, but then other people were putting doubts into my head, saying, "Well, what are you gonna do then?" Or, "How are you get another job?" Or, "You can't have a gap on your resume," which is just
Mm,
such old thinking.
I love it.
And then
Mm.
I know I don't want a job where I even need a resume. So I don't
Ugh.
care if there's a gap on my
My
resume.
gosh, I'm getting just full body goosebumps. It really is because you have to go through that. It's like one of my biggest fears is it's like a dream I have where I have to go through this very, very, very narrow tunnel. It's basically like a birth. You go through this tiny, tiny, tiny tunnel to get into this expansive new space. So I feel the constriction in that with what you're saying because you feel that, right? Like you're like, oh my gosh, what if this? What if that? There's so much fear in it. Like, what if I never work again? What if no one ever hires me again? What if, there's all those things, but you know that you have to just stick with it and allow those feelings to happen. And you trust in the fact that this expansive space is there when you go through this. But it's like, it's a lot of trust. It takes a lot of
Well, and
trust.
fear was a word that I really struggled with,
Mm.
and I've tried to eliminate it from my vocabulary because I find it's so easy to say, "Oh, I'm afraid of this happening," or "This might happen," and worries. And one of the things I did when I was really close to quitting my job, and it was, I mean, I'd already said that they'd already said no to the leave of absence, and I was thinking, I just need to quit. But I'm afraid, right? I'm afraid of not getting another job. I'm afraid of losing the income. I'm afraid of what people are going to think. And I was at a women's circle with a woman who's a Celtic shaman,
Mhm.
which I've just experimented in so many different things. But what she had said was, think of what you want to release. What do you want to let go of? And so I had written the word fear on a piece of paper, and we threw these papers into the fire and burned the word fear. And I did that, and the next day I went and quit my job.
Wow.
And I really think that fear and joy cannot coexist.
Mm. Mhm.
As long as you have fear, it is going to hold you back.
Mm.
And so that's really, I mean, in essence, what this year for me has been is letting go of fear, not having concerns about what comes next, just living each day.
Yeah, it's amazing. So when you did this ceremony with writing the word down and burning it, did it shift something in how you felt about it?
I felt empowered.
Mhm.
Just the power of all those women around this circle, and it was dark and it was cold outside, and everyone was just kind of cheering when you threw your
Yeah.
word to the fire. You didn't have to say what it was. I mean, it was private in that respect. But yeah, the collective power of that group of women and everyone there to have a forceful change in their life, that creates a lot of energy,
Yeah, exactly.
and it's contagious. And the group of people that were just cheering, saying, go for it, do follow your dream. And so that was sort of a tribe of women that I still connect with, that are just really honest with each other, and give you that space to make big decisions, and cut fear or whatever it is in your life out.
Yeah. Well, I love doing those ceremonies and it's such a basic concept. You'll do a lot with like a full moon ceremony because when the moon is growing to its biggest, you want to grow anything that you're manifesting with that. So you want to cast out for things that you want to bring in. But when the moon is at its biggest, it's at the full and it's now going to be waning. smaller, then you can kind of release things. So they say to release on the full moon. And I like to say release on the full moon once it's hit its peak, once it's completely waxed all the way up to a full moon and it's starting to wane down into the dark moon again. That's when you want to release.
It was a full moon
Mhm.
when we did that ceremony with the
Mhm.
fire.
Yeah, and it's so cool because the moon recreates itself every cycle. It recreates itself. So why can't we? There's always something that we can release. There's always something new that we can pull in, even if it's the same thing that we're pulling in, but a new look at it, a new perspective of it, a new way with it, a new element of it. It's just so cool. Those ceremonies, and when, like you said, whenever you have a group of people together, this is just energetics. Whenever you have a group of people coming together and sharing the same concept, it's powerful. It literally makes shifts. It's so beautiful. It's just I mean, your story is just so compelling and inspiring. I'm just so, I'm so in awe. I mean, I already know it, but I'm just so blown away by everything that you're doing. It's so exciting. I know that there are a lot of people that are listening to this that, maybe aren't at the point where, they're thinking, oh, well, that's great that she could quit her job. I can't maybe do that just yet or something like that. Did you have sort of a time when you planned out? Because no matter where you are in your life, it never feels like it is the right time. There's always one more bonus that's coming, or there's always one more something that's coming that you should wait for or something. But is there a way that you sort of came to grips or terms with it or planned out, or did you do something financially to organize it or something like that?
Um, I had actually thought about leaving a couple of times, and the timing wasn't right because there were just different events happening or um, changes in firms. What had happened in 2019 is my mother died,
Hmm.
and I was going to actually take time then. Uh, because I was sad and I was processing things, but I was afraid, the fear word,
Hmm.
of leaving my core group of people that I worked so closely with in my firm. And I knew that I wanted to leave the firm where I was, and I was talking with another firm about moving a whole group of lawyers with me, my core team. And so I wanted to move with them and move our practice and our clients and set all of that up for them so that we were in a good place.
Mm.
And so I did plan it in terms of I knew that something was going to happen in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
That was sort of my timeline. And then COVID, of course, accelerated everything because we started at the new firm like February 10th or something in 2020. And then 3 weeks later, we were all at home, working from home in a lockdown. And I never really met any of the other lawyers in my firm. So
Oh, wow.
that was sort of my time. My timing had been to wait and until we were established in our new firm and everything set up. And uh, that was when I was going to then take the time to do something else. But then COVID happened, and I was glad to have a firm and glad to be working and have a connection with
Right.
people instead of just being at home.
Right.
And I started a podcast with the firm, and I enjoyed that episode of my life. And so it was sort of interesting how then the 2-year mark just came, and it was just time.
Yeah.
It's all everybody has to find their own
So I
path.
wanted to ask you more about that too, and like going deeper in that way. So, is there a way in going deeper with yourself, which I know you've done in the last year, certainly, because that's the intention of it, but going deeper, when did that start for you? Sometime in your career, you started to go deeper. What was the reason that you went deeper into your authentic self or your soul or connected higher into source and infinite God or whatever you want to call it? Was there a reason?
Always a reason, right? I mean, I think trying to still my mind. There, I think that was really the reason is that I felt like I flip flopped so many different ways and who was demanding something from me or what was required or what I thought needed to be done or the shoulds and woulds and requirements. And Probably when I started doing the Kundalini and getting quiet and listening to myself and what I needed is when I started turning deeper, right? And finding that I didn't need all the external noise to sustain
Yeah.
myself. And it is still a process, but I can, I find like now I can travel by myself. I can actually do things by myself and feel good. Where I used to always have to be surrounded by people, always kind of traveling in a pack, right? Or letting people know what I was doing. And now I sort of crave the quiet. I want time alone. I want to sit and read a book. I don't want to be surrounded all the time with things happening. And for many years, I took ADHD medication,
Yeah.
and, I wanted to get off of all that medication. I took ADHD medication, I took antidepressants, I took all kinds of pills for everything, right, to make myself feel better and to get through all those
Mhm.
periods, like, when I was dealing with my parents being so sick, and none of it was working. It wasn't working, and so I think it was out of, desperation that I turned inward and to explore an alternative way to find peace with what I was doing.
I love it. I completely resonate with that in so many ways. It's almost like you find yourself, you find your connection, you find your purpose when there's no other option. You
Exactly.
know?
I ran out of
Yeah,
options.
it's so like silly to because you could choose you first, but it's almost like the way that we're set up and the programming that we receive from the day that we're born is really all about the conditioning of this life that we're supposed to live. And how that goes is that you do this, you do the right thing, you go to college, you get the degree, whatever, you're successful in this, and that way. And then you will achieve happiness. And then you will achieve financial freedom, or maybe not even, I suppose it's not financial freedom. Then you will achieve a surplus of income that you can take your vacation for 2 weeks of the year. You know what I mean? Because that's the goal, is to be able to
Right.
work x amount of weeks in the year, so to have x amount off. You know what I mean? How about every day is a instead of sacrificing these weeks, how about really living every day of your life? And so we subscribe to that without really even being given a choice. And more people are breaking the mold and just saying, this isn't fucking good enough. This isn't,
Yeah.
I deserve better. It's really amazing to see this happening on a large scale. It's like an epidemic of people making this choice.
Well, and you see it for sure in the young people, like my son who's 24 and his friends, all of them. I kind of laugh like, are they super idealistic or are they smart? Like none of them want jobs where they're going to work in a cubicle and they're going to have to work 8 to 5 and have 2 weeks vacation. They want
Hmm.
flexibility. They want meaning in what they're doing, and it's just so different, right? Like I got married at 23. I owned a house by the time I was 25, and I gotten started on this whole
Hmm.
treadmill of life of accomplishing, acquiring, accumulating wealth, doing all these things, and I did that for
You were
close to
living a
40 years.
successful
I'm like,
life. You were successful at 23. You had all the things that equaled success as they told you it was. And then you found your own reason or way of success that was completely different. And no one really shared it. No one really offered you that option. It wasn't for your son in this era. Now they're seeing things clearer. It's just coming up more where people are unsubscribing. Or how amazing for him to come into this and just be like, no, I can see that as an option, but I'm actually going to do this my own way.
yeah. Well, he said, "Yeah, I saw you sit in front of a computer for the
I
past
know
10
it.
years." We're
I
like, "Shh,
know.
don't
I tell you,
talk.
I
Be
ask my kids
quiet."
sometimes, what do you guys think that mom and dad do all day when we're working? Because all they see is that we're staring at a screen, moving a mouse half an inch, and getting
Yeah,
on phone calls. Like what they must think that we're doing, like from their perspective, is so silly. And I feel silly sometimes. I'm just like,
yeah,
what am I doing right now? What is this? What is this? What am I doing for action? How am I making anything? I don't know. It's a trip. I love that we have just really opened the can on the matrix and we can now see what it is. I mean, a lot of people are still sort of living in that and they don't maybe get it yet, but they feel the things that you're describing. And so it's not long, podcasts like this, and there's so many other opportunities and experiences where people are really starting to get the message out. So it's so exciting to just watch and witness it happening in a larger scale way.
It is, and it's hard to watch people that refuse to step out of the matrix, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I had a friend at the firm who was also planning on leaving, but she absolutely could not leave until she had something better,
Mm-hmm.
because she wanted to be able to say, "Hey, look what I did, and this is
Mm-hmm.
what I'm doing, and I'm going off because this is better." And I said, "Why don't you just take a break and just think about what you want." "No, I can't just leave. They're gonna think that I got fired or I'm unemployable," or, to a lot of people, their identity is so tied up in their work that to not work is
Mm-hmm.
just a foreign concept and too uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like looking at yourself that deeply. The way that you see yourself is based through somebody else and the way that they see you. And there's this quote that says, "What other people think of me is none of my business. I have no
I love
business
that.
knowing what they think of me. What I think of me is the most important." And that's a self authorizing um, step that it's not natural for a lot of people. It takes time and it takes effort, and it's hard to be self-authorizing and say, "I'm going to do this because I want to do it." And you have done it. I mean, what you have done is just so outstanding, so fearless, so brave. It's just amazing to hear about it.
You're so sweet. I don't know about that,
It
but
really
they,
is.
but it, but it is like you said, the ego, right? Of being able to not be wrapped up in my persona of being a lawyer.
Yeah.
I was ready to let go of that. Got a tattoo. Did I tell you
No,
that?
you did. I
That
was
was
going to
part
bring
of.
this up. I was going to bring this up because I love this story when you told me that. Okay, one of the things that she told me that I just literally almost fell over. What did you do with all the suits?
I gave them all away.
She had all of her Corpobot outfits. I think that you and I were joking around, and I called it like my Corpobot suit or whatever, like this, like
Yes.
little those outfits that you wear. No offense to Ann Taylor or whoever it is, but it's just like this is not this is prison. This outfit is prison. And she was saying all of her gray and black suits, her
I
prison
had a
wear.
lot of them. I had a
I'm
lot
sure
of
they were
them.
really nice too. They're gone.
I gave 'em all away. Also, the uncomfortable shoes, they went
Yes.
away too.
I love it. It's so funny.
But when I was going to this business lunch, last week, I thought, "Oh gosh, what do I wear?" I gave
I
everything
know.
away. So I have, like, one pair of black pants that sort of look like yoga pants, but they're really pants.
Right, right,
I can
right,
wear those.
right. I love it. I got to fit into the matrix. I do need to go in there sometimes, like do some things. That's so funny.
Well, I went in wearing cowboy boots and my yoga-ish
Oh
pants and
my
a
gosh.
pink, wrap instead of a suit jacket.
What a
But yeah,
rebel.
it just feels so confining. I really thought after COVID, everybody was gonna burn their suits. I thought that was just gonna be a
We
collective thing,
hoped,
like
right?
the way of pantyhose and
Right, right.
all the other things we don't want anymore.
I love your description of your outfit with the cowboy boots, and I imagine you with like a lasso just going into the office and just lassoing up people and just telling them like, "You're out of here. You're quitting today. Come with me. I'm taking you with me. It's over. You've had enough time. We're breaking you out of here."
Maybe that'll be my tagline on, my coaching business. "I'll
Yeah.
help you quit your
We're
job."
getting you the hell out of here. Come with me. I love it.
Break out.
So funny. It's so awesome. All right. Well, it's been amazing having you with us. We'll start to wind this episode down. I could talk about this all day. It's so inspiring and exciting to just see this. For the audience, you can follow Corinne on Instagram, and there's just no way that you're not going to be inspired by the amazing travel that she's doing. And she will definitely share more information when she does open up her coaching packages and stuff like that.
And my tribe has always been on LinkedIn. That's where all the lawyers are, right? And the corporate people. I don't have a lot of followers on Instagram. But, I sort of that's where I said, like, teetering between the metaverse and the metaphysical, is that I was so into, like, I did data privacy, and I know a lot about the internet, and I know how that works, and I did IT contracts, and I do have a virtual reality headset, so I actually do go into the metaverse. But then I started going into this exploration of his astrology and Reiki and all these other things that the metaphysical, and I'm still on that fence, right? I still am partially in LinkedIn land, partially in Instagram. Where do I evolve to, right? But this sort of the journey is just finding itself.
Okay, so one question then, I guess, we kind of talked about it a little bit before, though. I always ask people, like, finding your purpose. This is the Living on Purpose podcast, and finding your purpose, or on your way to find your purpose, or beginning to find your purpose. Do you have any funny or interesting stories on how things
I
went?
do think that my purpose is helping people to live authentically, to not be caught in the shoulds, coulds, woulds, all the things that you are told you have to do. And I've lived my whole life like that, right? I mean, I had the child out of wedlock. I went to law school when my son was 2. I've just always had faith that there was something else for me and for the next thing, and to not be caught up in what other people want for you or expect of you. I've always sort of been a rebel that way, despite having lived a very linear life career wise. Um, I always think that people should think less about what other people are thinking of them, and do what their heart tells them to do. And so as I go further on that journey, I see myself helping other people with that as well.
So beautiful. I know that you are already doing that. Like, it's already started. So it's so amazing to share this episode and to just see and watch your experience and your mission and purpose grow. So thank you so much for being with us. It was so beautiful having the opportunity to talk more about this with you.
I'm so happy to talk with you. Thank you for having me on the podcast.
I love this episode. It's such a great story of bravery. It's just so inspiring. I hope you loved it too. Share with me what your favorite part was and ask any questions. Corinne currently is not taking clients, but you can follow her journey on Instagram at Corinne in Texas. Don't forget to rate, review, subscribe to the podcast. If you love this episode, please share it with your friends or send it to anyone that would find inspiration in these words. So grateful to have you with me today, and we will look forward to seeing you next time.